Hi, everyone. Good morning and welcome to this morning edition of Ramola D Reports. I'm here this morning with a very important person, a technical weapons expert and a person with a lot of background in science and development who is here to talk to us today about the Hazardous 5G rollout in the UK, particularly in Gateshead Council, which is the area where he resides, I gather, which is in the northern part of England, and about a certain rollout of LED streetlights which come equipped with 5G technology. And he's taken a lot of flack for his speaking out and for his activism. So we're going to find out also all about what has happened over there, because I understand he's been in court a few times and the judge has actually ruled in his favor because the judge has understood that Mark is a weapons expert who knows what he's talking about. He has a background in radar. He's also an inventor and a patent writer. So he has an intimate knowledge of the electromagnetic spectrum, non-ionizing radiation, and all of the different weaponized technologies that can come out of those parts of the spectrum. So welcome, Mark. Thanks so much for joining me this morning.
Hi, Ramola. Yeah.
This is great that we're able to do this today. I should probably make a note that unfortunately Mark is having issues on his computer, so we're seeing Mark in black and white here today. But that makes it, all the more profound. It makes it sound like a film reel or something. So Mark, tell us actually, well, there's so many different places at which we can start this. I mean, clearly there's something incredible going on right now. There's been an actual rollout of these streetlights, right?
Well, let's define 5G first, because I think that's really important. There's a lot
Great idea
about what 5G really is. 5G's got nothing to do with telecommunications for humans. It's an interface between machines. So it's machine to machine. You could not get in between a collimated signal. What I mean by that is a focused signal from one of these high gain dielectric lens antennas, which are particular to 5G. 5G is not 5 gigahertz, by the way, because I hear that quite a bit as well. 5 gigahertz is a compression of data in a signal. It's got nothing to do with 5G, because what I'm going to tell everybody, and I know they'll find this absolutely unbelievable, 5G is a weapon. 5G is a weapon system. It's a target acquiring weapon system. Nothing more, nothing less. The pretense of the telecoms companies rolling out this technology that it's got something to do with faster speeds, faster telecommunications. What I'm going to say, if I put a person in between their mobile device, so you got your mobile device and you get a 5G signal. Now, if the 5G signal's coming in here, I haven't got much of a problem, but I can tell you now, if you orientate the signal to come through there, this antenna, well, let's put it like this. Brain injury would be the least of your concerns. So that's the myth about 5G. 5G is for autonomous vehicles. It's too direct. Now, this is another myth, but I'm going to tell you the reason for 5G and the reason why it's been rolled out. 5G is a machine-to-machine connection. It's for autonomous vehicles, so ATVs and AUVs, where you can actually direct a signal, it's called a downlink, from an antenna into a vehicle, because you need far higher amounts of data packages, obviously, to control a car. And you cannot use satellites, because obviously if the weather gets a bit not too
in the way,
then obviously you need to have these smaller antenna, what we call high gain dielectric lens antennas, on top of street light. So that's what it's for. That's what the technical purpose of it's for. But what I'm going to tell everybody, it's not that. It's basically just a weapon. So the myth is it's for autonomous vehicles, because you've got to tell technologists something. I mean, if I'm a technologist and I'm putting up these high gain dielectric lens antennas, I'm going to be scratching my head unless somebody tells me why we're doing that. What I can tell everybody.
Can I just ask you a couple of questions about those dielectric lenses? I looked them up a little bit. So it sounds like if you have lenses on an antenna system like that, the basic purpose of that is to collimate the signal or focus the signal in a sort of a precision beam.
Exactly what it is. It's exactly what it is. So what you do, you keep the energy, what's called a direct energy weapon.
Mm-hmm.
You keep the focus to a tighter spread. So then, and what it actually allows you to do, it allows you to target somebody. Well, the antenna we have, it comes in two parts. One part of it is actually phased array, so it's basically radar, a sophisticated scanner.
It's
So you put
radar. It's basically
radar,
very sophisticated radar. Okay.
very sophisticated radar, but the dielectric lens, so it allows you to target acquire, so you can see your target with the radar, and then your dielectric lens allows you to pour a lot of direct energy into your target. Now that's supposed to be an autonomous vehicle, and yes, you could probably have an argument about doing that to an autonomous vehicle, but I'll tell you why that whole thing's a complete crock. The radar emission from a single autonomous vehicle would be an issue to a human, whether it be small children or whatever.
Really? So it's a massive amount of emissions, it's what you're saying.
Well, you've got LiDAR on the top of these, number of these vehicles that are bouncing around and testing them in California and places like that. Now that LiDAR is a class 1 laser, should I say, roughly in around about 5 milliwatt. However, at speed, that emission needs to be significantly higher than that. So I'm going to suggest that it's not a 5 milliwatt at all. It's more like a 25 or maybe even 100 milliwatt laser light. And what's really
are you saying that what's being published is a little bit different from what you think is really happening?
It's exactly what I'm saying.
Oh my gosh. That would be sort of in your face fraud, right?
Well, without a doubt, unless you test these technologies in the real term, you're not going to know. I spoke to a guy in California who had one of these vehicles traveling up behind him. He was on a motorbike, and obviously on a motorbike you've got two mirrors on the handlebars, and obviously lasers are being caught in those mirrors and then directed directly to the guy's eyes.
Oh my gosh!
He got off his motorbike, and he'd said he'd seen this car behind him, hadn't really thought anything about it, and then got off and went off to his opticians, like an eye doctor, because he got pains, and he had a damage to the back of his retina. But I actually did an article on this, a guy called Mark Hinchcliffe, so it's motorbike writer. It's a guy in Australia who did an article specifically on this particular subject, on autonomous vehicles and how dangerous they are to motorcyclists, but they will also be very dangerous to pedestrians. So one vehicle is not going to be a danger. I mean, we have had instances where people's pacemakers have been affected by radar. So, the vehicles where they can reverse themselves into spaces. That's a very powered radar system. BMW reported a number of issues with pacemakers. People inadvertently walking past and being hit with this radar, probably getting, a bit of tachycardia or whatever. And
that's really horrifying to hear. So you're basically saying both these self-driving system vehicles, as well as the reversing vehicles, the reversing system in vehicles, use this radar, which could potentially have these dangerous effects.
You will have dangerous effects. Biology and microwave radiation don't mix. This is neurotoxic and genotoxic. But what the issue with the autonomous vehicle, we're talking about one vehicle here. Mm-hmm. Can you imagine being on the motorway with 50 or 60 of these vehicles with the LiDAR systems, and you're driving a vehicle, you're driving a normal car, you've got, possibly 3 mirrors that are picking up that LiDAR directed at your eyes, as well as the radar signals and the other signal systems on the car to geolocate it. The toxicity levels would be absolutely catastrophic.
This is absolutely incredible. And, Mark, perhaps we should also talk a little bit about LiDAR, since you mentioned it. So LiDAR is a light-based system, right? Is it laser?
It's a cross between radar and laser. Okay. So that's what LiDAR is. It's basically just a mix. Now, the issue that you have with the LiDAR systems, they operate in part of the spectrum that you can't see. Now, the issue with that, if I shone a class 1 laser at you, which would be classified as assault, by the way, if I shone a class 1 laser at you and it went into your eye. Your eye does quite a clever thing. It's called saccades. So it vibrates at the back. It's to stop you damaging the retina irreparably. And the fact that these lasers in these autonomous vehicles, you can't see them because the operating part of the spectrum that's not visible to a human.
Oh, wow.
You
So
can't
that's
see
a
it.
major aspect. I think yesterday when we were speaking, you were talking about the directed energy weapons in California, or at least the story about the directed energy weapons in California with the pictures of the planes and the lasers shooting down. What you're saying is that that's false because lasers operating in the non-visible part of the spectrum are not going to project a picture like that.
Who's going to deploy direct energy weapons so people can see it? I mean, come on, that's ridiculous. I mean, it's like firing a laser. It's like firing I mean, you use tracer bullets in normal munitions, so you can see the target. That tracer bullets basically to help you hit on target, because you know when you spray them out, you see them trace across. So you're straffing an area. You use tracer bullets. Well, that's possibly the laser bit that you saw. Direct energy weapons, you know, you don't see them normally. So that's a bit, it was very, very suspicious, the fact that you did see them. I was surprised at that.
Yeah, and you talked extensively about how those particular fires were PG&E utility created fires, and PG&E is now in court, etc.
I think there's a lot of trouble with some of these energy companies, but it could actually be, see, I've always said 5G, this smart agenda, the secret militarized armaments and residential technology agenda, is basically economic terrorism, because by the time you fill a home full of smart devices, you know, the people that live in that home are going to be so sick, you know, they're either going to have stroke, diabetes, all the illnesses that, you know, have been shown to be sort of developed in a human from these type of devices. You're not going to be spending much money. In fact, what you're going to do is kill off the population. You're going to harm the population. You know, this is a humanitarian crime, what we're talking about here. And where 5G is most certainly nothing to do with communications for humans. It's potentially communications for machines. But what I'm going to tell everybody, it's actually a weapon system. That's all it is.
It's a weapon system because it has these bio effects. It has these biocommunications effects actually on human bodies, right? On human tissue. So,
all the science is absolutely proven on that now. There's no sort of obfuscation in relation to the published peer-reviewed science on it. These signals are dangerous, and why wouldn't it be? They operate at significantly higher levels of energy than what your normal cell function does. And anybody that tells me that they can only be of harm when they burn you, they should be in jail. Any person who pretends to be a scientist working in any of these institutions who tell people that non-ionizing radiation is only harmful to humans at thermal levels, so basically cooking you, that's a fabrication. There's a forgery, and those people should be in prison for the death and the destruction, the neurological disorders that they're causing to their countrymen, women and children. This isn't ignorance. This is criminal. This is criminal activity. The science is there. It's always been there. It's been there for quite a number of years. In fact, since 2010, the World Health Organization stated quite clearly that these non-ionizing radiations were classified as a 2B carcinogen, and that they increased the risk of brain cancer, because we were starting to see a significant increase in brain cancer in children. And since then, all of the independent science research has been ignored. A lot of the independent scientists, you know, Ollie Johansson and others, Leonard Hardle, all these top scientists have basically been sidelined to continue this false narrative that non-ionizing radiation is safe. Israel spoke before, a lot of basic, you know, let's say, physicists, basic physicists who don't understand non-ionizing radiation will tell you there's not enough energy in it, but that is in its natural form. Well, that's what they think. If I go and tie you out in a desert in the sun for a day, believe us, it'll kill you. and that's naturally occurring non-ionizing radiation. So anybody tells you that there's not enough energy in it, talking poppycock, and it's criminal. Any scientist, all I have to do is take the head out of that sand and read the published peer-reviewed papers. This is not for discussion anymore. And the people who are keep pushing this, they have another agenda. It's probably a very well-paid agenda, but the criminality is the inaction when they have and should be looking at the full. I mean, how can you get a scientist? The basis of science is someone who can assess the full range of the work in a particular subject. So how can you have all of these organizations who only look at the thermal impact analysis and are ignoring the non-thermal impact while children are suffering neurological disorders? We've got massive increases in stroke in young women. We've got massive increases in self-harm, mental health problems, diabetes. All these things are caused with microwave radiation. Microwave radiation has a significant deleterious effect on cell function. Like I said before, it's neurotoxic and genotoxic. And that's not it being a weapon system. They were talking about 2G, 3G, and 4G here. 5G is not 5G, like as I said, is basically a weapon system. That's what it is.
Absolutely. And, when you speak about 5G, obviously, we're talking about something that's much higher in frequency, right? We're talking about something between, 1 gigahertz to 300 gigahertz.
No, that's another one. Yeah, that's total myth. So,
is that a myth too? So tell us what the story is. What is the truth?
That's means, well, everybody seems to think that. I thought that at first. 5G operates in the sub-gigahertz range.
It operates in the sub-gigahertz range. Okay, so but all the published material tells us it's between 1 gigahertz and 300 gigahertz.
No,
that's not true. Okay. So when you say sub-gigahertz, what is the range then?
It's only 700, 600 megahertz, 600, 700 megahertz. I mean, it's quite an interesting part of the spectrum. And how I came to understand that, the antennas that were fitted to the LED streetlight, 868.
Oh, yes, that whole thing. Okay, there you found out that was what, 800 megahertz or something?
168 megahertz. And what actually happened, I knew that the sub-gigahertz range was used for battlefield interrogation. And I thought, hang on a minute, why are they using that? Because it wasn't a phone signal. I mean, phone signals a lot higher than that. I mean, you can get them in that range. And obviously, there's lots of different parts of the spectrum that are used. But this particular part of the spectrum, I knew that this could look very well into the urban environment. And it can, because you can actually look. I mean, I've got some fantastic pictures of actually looking into buildings and actually looking through buildings at buildings 15 and 20 kilometers away. So that's quite interesting. Some of those images are pretty interesting.
Absolutely. And I should tell viewers that, I'm going to put links to some of Mark's videos where you can see these pictures. And also you can go to saveusnow.org.uk. I think you have some images up there, right?
Yeah, there's images and there's also some information for people to get started, to start getting active, because this thing is extremely serious, what we're talking about.
Yeah, and we can probably try to share screens and show some of that if you wish to, or, I could also try to do it from here.
How to do it on this particular platform. It's not. I'm not that go fair with it.
It doesn't show really well on your computer. Okay, so I can try. I'll try a little later because I'd like to show stuff from your videos so I can pull it up
I think that's the
in a minute while you're speaking.
Yeah, if they go to that particular YouTube channel, I'll see there's quite a number of YouTube videos, and they can start to get up to speed about 5G really is. 5G is higher frequency waveforms, as we've been told. I haven't seen any yet. And in the millimeter waveforms, they can be potentially extremely dangerous, but also can lower frequencies. Do you know, higher frequencies, lower frequencies, the dangers are still about, So it's not to discount any of them. And the reason for the sub-gigahertz, it allows you to look into the urban environment at significant distance, because in the higher frequencies are problematic in concrete, steel work and things like that, whereas the lower frequencies travel through them with ease. So if you look at some of the 3D imagery of buildings where you can actually be spied on, because basically what they're doing, they're scanning the environment. It scans its environment. That antenna on the top of there is an 868. I can tell by the height of it what part of the spectrum it actually fits in. So that's the antenna there. That's the hardware.
That's the antenna, the hardware. And they've fitted this to the sides of buildings, it looks like.
Well, that one there is fitted illegally. I don't know if that transmitter has to be several meters from a human. You can see it's directly outside a child's bedroom window. That would probably that would seriously damage a child in that building.
Now, would this be even more dangerous than smart meters? Because we've heard a lot about how terrible smart meters are.
Yeah, that's a lot more dangerous than a smart meter. Yeah, that's a 25. The manufacturer says it's a 25 milliwatt, but I think it's closer to 100. I'll put that into context. The maximum I can expose you to are 6 minutes. 6 minutes for one. That's the manufacturer says that's 25. I believe it'll be closer to 100. That's the dial. That's the if you go back to that.
Yeah, this one.
That's the dielectric lens on the end. So the high gain part of the lens, that copper strip, it's on one side of this PCB board. And then you've got the little nub at the end. It's actually a lens, and that allows you to shoot a signal directly at your target. Now that target could be an autonomous vehicle, but like I said, we've discussed before the fact that's the hardware, pretty meaty piece of equipment, as you can see. An awful lot of chipsets all the way from China there.
Now, you had made a comment on this video that when you look at this hardware, you, of course, as a tech weapons expert, can figure out that it's a kind of very complex and weaponized system. But can you give us a sense of why that would be? I mean, how do you get that sense just looking at it?
Well, the local council think you buy this in B&Q. And they made a statement to say you buy that in B&Q, and it's the same technology that's in your mobile phone. Well, what I'm going to tell you, does that look like your mobile phone?
No, it looks a lot more complicated.
Well, it's a little bit heavier, bit of kit. When you're going to shoot somebody, believe it or you're going to damage somebody, you need a bit heavier piece of equipment.
Could you shoot somebody with a mobile phone? Could you stick this kind of hardware in a mobile phone and use it like a weapon?
I think eventually they'll get there. Eventually you'll be able to have something the size of a mobile phone that you can.
Okay, so this is a little bigger than a mobile phone, is what you're saying. This board over here.
It's a little bit heavier, and it's got a lot more power going to it. And obviously that then allows you to deliver a lot more power out of that dielectric lens. So it allows you to fire quite a larger signal, powerful, what's called a direct energy weapon signal out of the top of that lens. And that's why I was absolutely astounded, because I expected to see the high gain. I mean, look at all the chipsets on there.
Yeah, incredible.
People have to understand, the amount of data you can actually get into a chip today is significant, and they are state of the art. That's the lens on the end there. It just looks like a little teardrop. That allows you to focus the signal, which it focuses the energy out of it. So you can see how lethal or potentially lethal that can be. Now, all of these antennas can work in conjunction with each other. So that particular element there, we have in a small area of Gateshead 31,875 of these elements. These elements can work in conjunction. Now that's 5G there. That's how you know it's 5G. See how it sends a signal, a single collimated signal from the antenna. You see it firing into the car there.
Oh yes. Let me go back to that actually.
That's the pretense.
So it's being projected as necessary to send signals to cars.
Well, that's what it's showing you there.
There we go. Yeah.
You've got the phased array, which is the target acquiring bit, because you've got to be able to see the car. You've got to be able to identify where the receiver is, the antenna in the car. And then you have to point the dielectric lens at it. All pretty complicated stuff, I can tell you. So you need
Yeah.
no complicated kit in that hardware to be able to
Yeah.
even think that you can do that. But what I can tell everybody, in Bloomberg, I think it was last year sometime, Bloomberg did an article about the South Korean Olympic Games. And at those Olympic Games, they were using the 5G array to look into the jungle to identify wild boar, and they were shooting them. Now, anybody that knows anything about weaponry, weapon systems, you normally test them on pigs. And obviously wild boar are very much like pigs, but they are pigs. It's all porcine. So you test porcine. Let's say if you've got a new round of ammunition, you test it on a pig, because it looks very much like a human when you chop it up. So you want to see what the damage is done. So it's quite interesting how, and I mean, that's in the public
This
domain.
is incredible. Are you saying that, you know, they used this same tech, the same 5G tech that's being used in these streetlights to identify those pigs, to find them? Was it, you know, as sort of like radar surveillance, or was it?
Exactly the same thing. Yeah,
That's what it was used for.
Jungle, track them in the jungle, target acquire them, and then shoot them.
Oh, so shoot them not with directed energy weapons, but with actual.
No, shoot them with direct energy weapon.
Oh, shoot them with directed energy weapons. So with the same tech, in other words, with the same 5G style tech.
Yeah, basically the same tech. Probably out the same factory. Probably use the same hardware. Slightly different antennas, I would suggest.
Oh, good. Here's that picture. One second. Let me get to that. Let me play it so we can get to that picture that I think you wanted to show us.
And it was certainly in breach of the Nuremberg Code, and how we know it's in breach of the Nuremberg Code is the all of the experiments, any animal experiments where these now that's what it can look through a building. Yeah. Okay. So you strip away without a casing. Yeah, your signal goes into the casing, and obviously you get a response. You've got to remember this is pulsing at 800, so it's pulsing in real time, a bit like a camera. It's 868 million pulses a second. So you're actually looking into that environment and stripping away the outer casing, and then going further into the building. So you can basically strip that building away. You can look at the building behind it, the building behind that, and you can look into the urban environment in the 868 at quite a significant distance. And I can start to pick out specific things within that building. So let's say if you've got a configuration of something you want to look at, I can look, you know, let's say I'm looking for a little safe where somebody's hid all their money.
Oh, I see. Right. Yeah.
Start to look into that building and see exactly where you've got your and kept your goods. Now, one of the things that's quite interesting with this, anybody with any artwork, priceless artwork, it potentially will destroy it, because it'll break it down. This will be a pulse modulated microwave radiation continuous, so it'll break down artworks. It'll destroy your.
This is a nightmare. So pretty much anybody who is an artist their work is going to be affected by this. All of their visual art is going to be affected by this.
It'll affect the way that you paint. It'll affect the way that you think. It actually dumbs you down. It actually destroys your neurological systems, subdues the human mind and the human thought process. Because that's another thing.
Now, that's a very important aspect, I think, because if we are relating this to all of those agendas that you mentioned earlier, all of the dark agendas that people are not speaking about, but apparently are rolling out at high speed, then part of that agenda is indeed to dumb down the human brain, right? To make people placid and docile and not think very much, while they're suffering from migraines and strokes and heart attacks and whatnot as well on the side.
Yeah, that's exactly what goes on. Yeah, I mean, people.
You know, this is actually major. This diagram over here, this picture you have, this graphic is so very telling, because it kind of shows so many things. It shows the intensity of the radiation possibly coming from an emitter. It shows how all of this becomes transparent to a viewer, right, through this technology. So this is almost like Using the non-visible spectrum to have a sneak peek into people's homes, right?
Absolutely illegal. This technology is illegal and unlawful. You know, there's no ifs or buts. This is the bit. See, the bit that your government thinks it's going to use is to spy on you. But what I'm going to tell you, that technology's got nothing to do with spying. That's so I can see you and I can shoot you. So let's say that was you down that little orange little nub at the end there, and let's say that's you, the biological structure, because that's what that looks like to me, the biological structure. So I can actually direct an energy weapon signal directly at that person there.
So this signal could be directed at a person inside the building. Could it be directed at a particular point on the person's body?
It's what they've been using in Cuba, the neurological disorders in the Cuban embassy attack. This type of technology was used in the US embassy in Moscow attack. It was used in a recent Chinese in the US embassy in China attack and the Cuban attack. And how we know that is because of the neurological disorders, because this is the first thing that these type of weapon systems damage your neurological disorders. So we're talking about targeted individuals here. And, you know, the rollout of 5G, everybody will be the target, not just targeted individuals. Anybody, any judge, any police officer, anybody who thinks that they're getting in the way of somebody else's agenda. And what's absolutely unbelievable about this, it's not secured. This system that's here is
anybody could hack it. Anybody could use it for revenge on anyone else.
Absolutely.
You know, you have an altercation with your neighbor could hack into it, right?
The new way around the computer system, yeah. And not only that, they could attack in your home. They could, it's a Pandora.
It's huge. I mean, think about it. If it were installed as a grid, then it's like a battlefield. It's like your home becomes a battlefield, right?
It's a grid and a battlefield. Like I said, we've had it built. I'm not saying that the council knew what it was, didn't have a clue. The problem that they've got now is they now know, I know what it is, and that's why they're trying to get us into court to gag me.
So yeah, you know, at this point, you know, we should really talk about what has happened, because looking at the documents on these videos, and I will put the links, viewers, for the, that video and other videos that Mark has put out, so everyone can see what this whole story is about. But basically, in those documents, it sounds like you tried to bring this information forward to the council, and other people also have tried to bring this information forward, and then they started to pull back and demand that you not do so. What exactly happened? Can you tell us the gist?
I thought they'd made a mistake. So obviously, once I found out, once I availed myself of all of the relevant documentary evidence and the science behind this, I contacted them and said, look, you've made a mistake. You've rolled this technology out secretly, covertly, in breach of a number of parliamentary European laws, etc. It's not safe. What I'm going to suggest to you is remove it. It's illegal, and nothing more will be said. Because I thought that just somebody, you know, purchased some, it was a massive mistake.
They made a mistake. Yeah, you thought that at first.
There was an agenda, an actual agenda. Anyway, I eventually got invited into the council. I basically took a strip off them. What happened? I showed them, you know, the image before where the transmitter's right outside the child's bedroom window.
Yes. Yeah.
That's deplorable. Manufacturer says that's not safe at several meters to a human. Now, I know that anybody working on those windows, cleaning the windows, climbing up there, scaffolders, anybody is at significant risk to have their kidneys taken out, destroy your kidney function. So I knew that this had been fitted illegally, and I was showing this to councillors had a picture of that, and a person, I was saying, this is fitted illegally. They were laughing at me. So I got a bit exercised and I said, listen, this is not funny. I'm not here to laugh. I'm not making fun of this. And I said, you lot, and I pointed at the executive and I said, when this comes out, you're going to prison. As we've just heard those guys at Flint, where they're going to prison now. Where
yes, the water.
That's what needs to happen. Yeah, we need to indict them. Problem that we have, the police force has been hacked as well. So the police force is now a police force that is paid for by Gateshead Council. We have one of North India police here who aren't acting because, number one, they don't understand the technology, which I can understand that there's very few people do, That's why it's secret weapon systems, because it's a secret. That's why I'm telling everybody. So the council, I actually remonstrated with them there, and I then sent all of the councillors all of the relevant documentary evidence to show that this was extremely dangerous. And these people live in this community. Not one reply. Not one reply. And then we heard that what had happened had been gagged. This was just a bit of evidence that we had. And then from that, I saw a councillor in the streets, and the videos are there, and I videotaped, and I asked him the question, had he been gagged? He just wouldn't respond. And we had instances of councillors running away from constituents where they were asking them in the street about the LED street lighting and the 5G. And now what we get threats. So then what's happened, the council sent a couple of councillors to my home to bear false witness, basically conspiracy to pervert the course of justice. They came to me, and I'm still, that case is possibly Thursday of this week. I'm waiting for the solicitor to contact me on that, because obviously I need to get some legal representation organised. And anyway, it's...
You're being brought into court for what precisely?
Well, they said that I'd threatened them in the street, which I didn't threaten them.
You asked a question in the street, it sounds like.
I asked them what they were doing about... I found out they were councillors, and obviously they came to my home. As soon as I approached them, they rang the police and said I'd threatened them. So
that's outrageous. Now, our journalists in that area, are they talking to the councillors? Are they getting any information from the councillors?
We've basically got the whole media circus in the UK is being hacked. There's none of the mainstream media. The only mainstream media outlet that's covering this story is RT. Russian TV did an article on 5G and it'll kill you. So, but the rest of them, they're just not touching it with a bar.
They're not touching it. So the local news media is not touching it. It's the same in the US. It's like, it is a circus, and you can see very clearly that the media is in the hands of the government. It's government propaganda at this point. But it sounds like...
Well, it must be Chinese government propaganda, because this is where this hardware comes from.
That's really interesting. Tell us more about that. You found out that this hardware is actually Chinese.
Most of the hardware, most technical hardware, most technologies come out of either, South Asia, China. That's where this stuff comes from. So we've basically got a weapon system that's been rolled out, most certainly manufactured in those Asian countries. And basically...
It's manufactured there, but who is it manufactured for? Is there a UK company that's buying it and installing it?
The very, very difficult one to get. You'd actually have to understand, who was actually behind the whole thing.
Yes, of course, it goes back to that ultimately. Yeah, who's pulling the strings from behind, right? And who's gagging these councillors is the other question. It's like
threats, whether they're suffering threats or gagged at them, I'm not really sure. But anyway, these councillors came both false witness testimony against them. But you've got to remember, these people, when this comes out, these people could be going to prison. So obviously they're going to try and do anything to save their skin now. And what actually happened,
couldn't they just stop the rollout? Couldn't they just remove this? I mean, if they want to be safe.
You see the liability, they've already done it. It's illegal. So, how do you cover that one up? They're in serious trouble. So then what happened, I posted a number of videos up, and the council stated that they had to get me gagged because I was frightening people. I was terrorising and frightening people, and there was vulnerable people in the community who were frightened from the videos. Well, somebody has...
that's very wrong, because I read some of those documents suggesting that just speaking out and giving people the information is being mischaracterized as frightening people and terrorising people.
Well, they said I was a conspiracy theorist. There was no merit in it. And so anyway, they got me into court. And unfortunately, for Gateshead Council, the judge, after lunch, realised that they just fabricated a load of evidence, and he came out and he said he'd read my evidence, and he then stated in the court that I was technically competent. It means legally qualified. And obviously, I would be.
That's absolutely terrific that the judge could absolutely recognise your technical credentials, your background.
Well, you could say I was an inventor. I mean, I've got lots of patents. I had a letter from my patent attorney, because obviously I get challenged, my patents get challenged. I've got to be able to defend the technicalities of a patent in a court. You know, these sometimes go to, you know, hearings where
Yes,
you
it sounds like just looking at patents, you know, the person who writes patents needs a sort of an in-depth,
got to have a
inner
really
understanding of the technology.
absolutely. So that, you know, and I've got quite a few patents in this particular space, mainly in head-up-display systems. But they are on the battlefield to mitigate some of these microwave radiation weapon systems. So, you know, you'll see people with, you know, a lot of these pilot helmets and things. I've got lots of designs and patents in that space. And they are for pilots to protect them from these weapons, these beam-directed weapons on the battle space. In fact, anti-radiation missiles, it's your first form of attack. So when you take your planes, the first missiles that are coming out of the plane, these are the long range to take out the anti-radiation weapons. That's why they call them, you know, anti-radiation missiles.
Anti-radiation missiles.
Yeah, well, your armed suite of missiles, that's what they're there for. Well, you've got to kill them first, because if you don't, you'd kill the pilots. You can't fly into a battle space and have those radar systems pumping out microwave radiation at you.
No, is this something that's developed over the last 20 to 30 years as electronic warfare has
It's going
increased?
on since the war. The first phased array weapon system was called Mammoth. It was in the Germans had it during the Second World War.
So it goes back to the Second World War, because of course radar has been around for more than 100 years at this point, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So at this point, we're talking about highly sophisticated precision weapons.
Things have moved on significantly.
Yeah, and you're suggesting now that battle space in the sky with, you know, these guys in fighter jets shooting at each other has been brought down to the level of the urban environment, to our streets.
Well, what they're doing, they're rolling it out now. 5G is in fact a battlefield interrogation system. That's what it is. That's where it came from. And obviously somebody's decided that they want to bring it into a civilian setting, which to me is absolutely bizarre. It is illegal and unlawful in every sense of the word. And obviously the epidemiological data that we have on the street now, they were testing the 5G array. I mean, while they're testing 5G in Bristol University, is beyond my comprehension. All I have to do is go to the Chinese. They'll send them some hardware over in a heartbeat. So they're testing this 5G array in Bristol, and they've had massive amounts, well publicised, massive amounts of suicide from students in that particular university, and particularly the Bristol. They've got 16 million as a test bed for 5G. I think it was about 2016, about the same time when we got it in Gateshead.
That's quite incredible. And you were telling me also about in your own neighborhood in Gateshead, you had little boys with bleeding nosebleeds, right?
If anybody watches the videos, you'll see it. It's absolutely appalling. This is torture. So they're torturing the children. They're being tortured, and then they're bleeding from the nose.
And children, as we know, are the most vulnerable. I mean, a lot of the studies that have come out show how the children's brains are the most affected by even Wi-Fi cellular radiation, right? So
it's unbelievable. The unborn are, especially at near full term, are at significant risk. And why in China it's by law you must wear a sort of microwave radiation apron. That's the law. So nobody's even talked about it in the US or in the UK or any of the G7 countries, because what happens, the media have been hacked. You've got a media there absolutely hopeless, where all they do is talk about how fantastic this technology is and don't talk about the downsides.
No, they don't. And you know, that's connected also to the commercial sector, as we talked about earlier. When you look at the websites of some of these companies, these telecom companies, etc., that are so happy about 5G being rolled out, there's no mention, you know, that there is any danger whatsoever.
Well, the good thing is the Russian TV output. I watched it yesterday and it was 600,000 views, and I watched it today and it's up to 700,000 views.
That's great. Yes, the little report by Michelle Sanchez, right? I was very impressed by that. I hope she continues reporting on the subject.
Well, I think she will when they're getting that type of response. I mean, they'll make a fortune on their Google ads.
Yeah, I know. It seems like things may be in a stage of transition as more and more people wake up to the dangers and begin to realize that we may not see effects right now, although we are, right? If children are getting nosebleeds, if people are having miscarriages, those are all indications that this is already affecting the population, right?
We've seen children with having fits from the pulse modulated blue phosphor coated LED streetlights.
You've seen
Don't
children
have
having
blackouts.
fits. That's huge. That's awful. Oh my
Children
God.
having fits off that. Children suffering nosebleeds from the transmitter, because LED streetlights are problematic. They've only been in Barcelona for, I think, a little bit more than 3 years now, and it's doubled the breast and the prostate cancer rates. Now, what I'm going to tell people, optical radiation, now this is really my sphere of expertise, is in the optical radiation emissions, and obviously we've done lots of research in this particular field. Pulse modulated 450, 460 nanometers frequency, so these blue phosphor coated LEDs, extremely dangerous
Oh,
to
really?
cells, cell function,
Now
destroys.
they're coming out everywhere, right? These blue phosphor-coated LEDs, they are in car headlights,
Yes.
they're in the street lights, they're sort of replacing the fluorescent light.
Lots of in car headlights. I mean, they're not good, but they're not as lethal because you've got a filter over the front, and if you get an ABS filter, that cuts down the radiation impact. But one of the issues that we'll have with these street lights, no filter, and not
No
only that,
filter.
they're built like this so the light catches your eye, so that basically the glare off them goes into your retina and damages the back of your retina. I mean, we're going to see mass blindness. We're going to see
This is
people
a nightmare.
macular degeneration. This is all well documented. I mean, AMA, the American Medical Association, have documented this.
And
The
this is the light, actually. This is the actual beam of light that's coming from those lights.
It's the pulse, it's the square wave pulse modulation that causes the real serious problem. It's actually because we'll call it flicker. It's pulse modulation. It's called in flicker. And what that does, it's a stop start. So you've got this energetic, let's say a 2.5 electron volts. So you've got 2.4 EV. Your cells operate in the millivolts range in the cell function. So if I hit it with this energy package, this stop-start energy packet, I hit it with an energy packet, and then all of a sudden you cause oxidative stress in the cell, and that damages the cell. The next minute the cell dies. So that's what's going on there.
Yeah, that's pretty incredible. So that's just the beam of light, because it's pulse modulated pulse wave propagation that's going
Well,
to destroy your cells.
it's light optical radiations are classified carcinogen. That's why you get skin cancer. And not only is it a classified carcinogen, it's classed as a hazard. All know it's a hazard. Artificial light is not natural light. Natural light's pretty dangerous, believe it or not. Like I said before, if I tie you in the jungle, if I tied you out in the desert for a day, you'd be dead.
It's the
So,
ultraviolet part of it, etc., that's dangerous.
well, what actually happens with natural light? Natural light's immersive, and what it does, it's nowhere near as dangerous as part of these emitters, like your RGB screen. So you've got a red, green, and blue pulsed LED emission, and at distance, it's not a problem. Yeah,
Okay.
it's not a problem. You're at distance. The radiation, the high frequency radiation, attenuates in air quite a bit. I can show you an experiment and explain that. So it
This
attenuates
is
in
the normal computer monitor you're talking about.
normal computer monitor. There is a risk, but all technologies carry with them risk. It is an acceptable risk. You will get some people who are harmed by them. You will get, you've got that bell curve average. So you will
Yeah.
get some people who are severely disrupted and harmed by them. But on average, they're pretty risk-free. Yeah, just don't get too close. You get too close,
Okay.
you're
As
asking.
long as you maintain a certain healthy distance.
See people with phones like that. I mean, you're asking the. You're
I mean,
asking.
everybody's doing that over here. I live in Massachusetts. There are no laws against, holding your phone up while you're driving. In Virginia, where I used to live, there are laws, but here everybody does it.
People should keep their smartphones as far away as possible, as far away as what's comfortable. That's the sensible thing. These phones aren't safe. They're not
So you
safe.
absolutely need headphones at all times with your
Well,
phones
yeah,
to
well,
preserve your brain.
headphones with an air gap. You need the ones with air gap, or you're just wasting your time putting
Oh,
electronic
really? Headphones with an air gap. Now,
with
what's
an
the
air
purpose
gap.
of that? To
Well, what you don't want is to have any electronics in your ear.
Oh, I see, because the headphones themselves have
Yeah,
electronics which are going to be emitting.
exactly.
Great.
Or you may as well buy one of those smart watches or something.
Or get a smartwatch.
Or
Oh,
get a-
wow.
yeah, if you want to
Okay.
give yourself, if you want to reduce your life expectancy, buy yourself one of those. What do they call them? Fitness tracker things. Just get
Uh-huh.
really close to your body. You know, I mean, it's quite deleterious to your cell function. You know, blood cells and things like that. So it's just an impact, and it's all about. Now let's be sensible here. It's all about densification and the implications of the more of this radiation that hits your body, the more dangerous it is. So the less
So
that
it's build up.
you get it. Yeah, yeah. Well, you know, if you go into a person's home today, they could have 20 or 30 smart devices in their home, which
People
is
do it. I mean, we're living in this age where people have no clue, and most people, when they hear, oh, there's radiation damage from these cell phones, whatever, they just sort of close their eyes and keep going because nobody wants to give up the convenience of having your cell phone and texting your friends on a daily basis.
you know, but you've got to think about your kids. I mean, we understand this technology, so I wouldn't have it around my grandchildren. I'd protect them from. I mean, obviously, you protect your children. It's okay for adults if it's like smoking. This is like smoking in the home. It's no different, right? I mean, that's an impact on children. Now, a lot of people don't do that. You find people smoke outside if they're smokers, don't smoke in the home because they build up the toxins.
That's true.
Very sensible, and obviously trying to protect their children. But you see the issue that we have here. Nobody's warning the general public. There's been no warning.
I think that's what needs to be done. A massive effort needs to be taken by everybody to start learning more and start informing people and start, putting out blogs, putting out websites, doing podcasts, whatever. Start doing the work that media is not doing for us, right? In this
Well,
space.
well, we need to, but I mean, if you look at the ultimate goal, you've just built the annihilation, the what do they call it? It's the final solution weapon system. It's called 5G. So
Oh
somebody's
my
built a
God.
weapon
Yeah,
system on top of it. Yeah.
that's a wake up call, if anything. If this could very well be the final solution, wake up, genocidal weapon over here that's being rolled out. And until people stop it, it's not going to get stopped, it sounds like.
I think we win this. We win this battle. But what we'll have to do is we'll have to inform. It's why I do these talks. And we just need to inform as many people as possible, as quickly as possible, so we can put pressure on the politicians and get this stopped. So even
Fabulous. Yes.
we'll have to
And
take direct action to get it stopped.
you have, I'm just going to go briefly to this website and just show people your Save Us Now website. Can you just tell us what this is all about? This is a new political party that you're starting?
It's a new well, it's a movement. It's a global movement. It's not just about the UK. Obviously, we set this up. This is for everybody. This is mankind's awakening. That's what this website's about. It's about freedom,
Great.
democracy, and the rule of law and peace. Right? This is actually to assess these technologies and to stop the corruption, because the only reason these devices have come to our near locality is through sheer corruption at a number of organisations. Where they've basically stated that these technologies are safe. They're far from safe, and it doesn't need to be like that. There are ways to have all the technology that you want, have it safely, have it in a cable. What's wrong with having cable TV? Why do we have to have transmitters at the end of every street? Why do you have to have autonomous? Who wants an autonomous car? I always enjoy driving. I don't like driving too far, but I enjoy getting in a car and driving off somewhere. Who wants to sit in the back of the car and have a drive for you? I mean, come on. This is just unbelievable. And it's an agenda. It is an actual agenda to harm humans. There's no two ways about it. I mean, the science, like I said before, is absolutely damning.
Hmm. So absolutely. So telling people this is actually a sort of a real aspect of empowering people. It looks like what you have done here. You have shared a template online which you say people can use as a FOI request form, a Freedom of Information request form to send to your governments, to your local councils, right? And ask them some tough questions.
You must start asking the tough questions. What I'm going to tell everybody, we've put these out, and what we've received is absolute garbage, lies, fabrication, not the truth.
I see.
They are running for the hills now. They have understood there's something not right about 5G. Obviously, after
Okay.
I started making a nuisance of myself and started to tell them that 5G is in fact a weapon system. So what we've actually got going on now in the UK is a massive cover-up. This is the greatest humanitarian crime ever to be perpetrated on mankind. Absolutely. There will be millions. We talk about the Holocaust when a supposed 6 million were murdered. This will kill tens of millions of people, but not only will it kill tens of millions, it's already torturing children in school. Children are self-harming, they're being tortured by the Wi-Fi in their schools. This is unbelievable. It is absolutely appalling. The
This is
tech,
off the scale.
it's off the scale. The science is there, the epidemiological data. We had 70,000 children in schools self-harming last year. We've
Hmm.
got kids committing suicide. We've got children in primary schools having
Oh,
heart attacks
yes.
and heart issues because of the Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi radiation passes through. There's a 2.5 gigahertz frequency. It passes through children like a knife through butter. Damages their heart. Damages their cellular function. Damages their fertility. Damages their DNA. This is just absolutely unbelievable. And this is the reason why my local council have took it upon themselves to try and gag me. They want to gag me and stop me from telling people what I'm telling people. Wake up. The sun is rising. That's what that's all about. The sun is rising. We've got quite some interesting symbology there as well, because some people like symbology.
Absolutely.
I know the significance of it and the reason why it's there. The people that are behind this know exactly what that means as well.
Yes, yeah, because we know that there's Illuminati signaling that uses the sun as well, right? The sun rays. So
Well,
this could very well be a kind of a mirror to them. Look, hello, the real sun is rising among humanity, right?
well, the sun is mankind's. Mankind was given dominion over the earth by God. It's time to take it back, and that's our son, not theirs. So we're capturing, we're taking back what is rightfully ours, what was given to us by God. Simple. That's the whole point.
Absolutely. And you know, I should say, Mark, it's everybody's sun. Everyone on this planet is going to
Every,
be affected by 5G. So it's everybody's fight, right?
everybody's fight at look every past this, when people get onto this YouTube video, pass it around, show it to people. Don't just sit there and look at it and go, oh, flipping heck, that's really interesting. Pick up the URL and pass it to your neighbours. It is incumbent on you. We have a humanitarian crime, an international humanitarian crime going on here. And people, the only way we'll get it stopped is by people becoming more knowledgeable. Don't take my word for anything that I've said. Do your own research. Look into Brundtland Weapons. Go and have a look at Environmental Health Trust's websites. Go and look at the science. Look at Leonard Hardle. Go and look at Professor Martin L. Pal. Martin L. Pal,
I was
always
going to say.
Martin. He's a very, very interesting character, and he can show you how the pulse modulation damages the cell and causes calcification, damage in the cell. So have a look at in Ollie Johansson's work. Some fantastic science out there. Read it, understand it. Forget about the weapon systems. I'm just telling you what 5G is, what it really is. Forget about that. Let's get these signals back into a wire, get them back into a cable. And that doesn't stop people using mobile phones. What it means is let's have a simpler signal to a phone. Technology saved millions of people from dying. You know, I am a technologist. I'm not a Luddite. I'm a technologist. So I believe in technology, and technology is great for humanity. Let's make sure it doesn't kill humanity. Because this technology, 5G, that's what it will do.
Absolutely, absolutely eloquently put and so brilliant. And thank you so much, Mark, for spelling it all out, because we need it spelled out, you know, especially from people who understand the extreme dangers of this tech. So, you know, we have to have you back some other time so you can talk a little bit more about some of the options, perhaps, some of the solutions, some of the ways that we can go forward with safer technology. But right now, it seems like the crying need is for people to wake up and start taking action locally, start informing their local governments, local city councils, find out what the program is in their local neighborhoods about the 5G rollout, and make every effort to educate everybody that 5G is dangerous and should not be rolled out, right?
Anybody involved in 5G, 5G is a weapon system. It's a crime against humanity. Anybody who's involved with it, get out of it. Anybody who's got shares in it, get out of them. The smart agenda, get out of it. It is a death trap. It is economic terrorism. It kills off your population. Countries are relying on that population to generate wealth. It is mankind's operation, his physical operation, that creates wealth in any country. If you kill him, you've got no economy. This is an attack on the economies. This is an attack on humanity. That's what this technology is. It's nothing more and nothing less. So don't believe the hype. Don't believe the autonomous vehicle bullshit, because that's what it is. And I very, very rarely swear. It's absolute bull. Wake up and get active and use the Save Us Now. Use the insignia. Use it. Get together. Organize yourself in groups, and let's take the fight to and where it needs to be. Let's bring these public servants to heel. That's what they are. They're public servants. They've decided they want to be our masters. And the problem is they're pretty thick. They're pretty dim-witted. So what happened? They've allowed this technology to get the way it is. And we need to tell them what it really is and get them back in their box.
Very good. And, you know, their own children are at risk here, are in danger of being harmed. You know, our own government members' children are at risk. So people need to know that. Everybody needs to wake up as to what this really is. So this is absolutely incredible. I thank you so much for giving us all of this information on the technology and on the situation, Mark, and creating the tools online for us to use so that we can get started asking. This is information warfare as well at this point in time. You know, media doesn't cover it. We don't have enough info out there. We don't have enough persistent, repetitious information being given out to people.
It's like Brandon. What happens? People need to share their symbology. People need to keep talking about it, because that's what drives the information out over, not in over. Don't talk to activists who know. Talk to people who don't know. It's always a fault activists. They like to get into a huddle and talk to each other. We need to talk out over. I mean, I'm not an activist. I've become an activist because I had to. I have a moral obligation and a duty to mankind to put my life at risk, because I've had threats to my life over getting this information out there. I don't care. I can get threatened as much as you like. That system's going to kill you. So you have to, you know, I've thrown all caution to the wind. Absolutely. I've got grandchildren. They'll die. If I don't stop this, they'll die. All humans are affected by this. As you said before, these politicians' children will die. That's what this weapons system is capable of. I've seen it in action, believers, and it is absolutely terrifying. And they're building it out because they're stupid, ignorant, greedy. But I'm going to tell you now, if I know what it is, there's somebody knows that what it is, and everybody watching this video now know what it is. Let's get active and let's get the whole thing stopped. One of the things I was going to ask Ramola, I've obviously got a criminal case and a civil court case going on. Mm-hmm. Somebody wants to have a look at that. It's GoFundMe. We need resources so I can get the best legal teams we can put together to get this criminal activity and the criminals who are behind this, where they need to be, behind bars.
Absolutely. Let's put the link for the GoFundMe page below the video. And, let's just put out a general call and appeal to everybody watching. Please support Mark's legal case over here, because it's a case not just for himself, it's a case for his whole county, his whole state, his whole country, and the rest of the world, because all of these things set legal precedent and they have kind of rollout effects elsewhere as well.
Well, if we
So
can stop it, what you've got to look at, we're a little bit early here in Gateshead, and if we can stop it dead, a lot of the local authorities are watching what's going on here. They're watching from around the world. There's a lot of people in the US watching this. They start to see some arrests and some of these councillors getting locked up, believers, and some of these executives getting arrested, believers, it'll cause a proper problem.
I think that's absolutely right. And it's the moment at which the council members begin to realize that, their position is rather invidious and cannot be held, that they are liable, that they are going to be held accountable. That's when I think or at least I would hope, that they would change their tune and start changing what they're doing.
I think the problem, it's so big of it, you can understand from anybody's perspective, this is such an horrendous, monstrous attack on humanity. Who's going to try and admit it? I mean, even though they were told in a court that I was an expert, right, they're still in denial. They're still in denial that it's not 5G. And I had one of that technical guys on the stand, he didn't have a clue. He just didn't know what he was talking about. And the judge could see that. I obviously pressed him on the questions and he just couldn't even answer me. I mean, they put a press release out stating that they were buying the equipment at B&Q. It's one of the outlets like Walmart. They bought the equipment from Walmart type of thing. I mean, this just shows you the type of ignorance we've got going on.
Yeah,
And for any story that'll cover that back. It's unbelievable. But, we see this all the time with institutions when they get caught, they run, and that's why they're trying to gag me and they're trying to send me to prison.
yes.
They want me locked up. That's where they want me. Gagged.
We need to keep Mark from them, ever getting to him and trying to imprison him and gag him, because obviously, Mark, your voice is absolutely essential in this fight because of your background and your commitment as well. And you are a hero at this point in time. You're a world hero as far as 5G is concerned, because you are speaking out.
Because I've got I'm morally and legally obligated to speak out. This is not me being a hero. I'm not being a hero at all. This is the law. The law states quite clearly, once you knew of a humanitarian crime like this, you must act. Otherwise, you would be the same as the criminals who are behind it, the monsters. I'm not even going to call them criminals. I'm going to call them monsters, give them their real name, they're monsters.
Yes, absolutely. And actually, what you are pointing to is everybody needs to be a hero in these times. I know you say you're not a hero, but in a sense you are, because you are taking a stand, whereas many people are not. And it's time for everybody to wake up and recognize we all need to take a stand. It's come down to the wire at this point, accept annihilation or do something.
The more people that get involved, the more people that support me, the more people that the establishment see that are supporting me, the more that they're going to back off. And we're not, not only that, a lot of establishment people understand the existential threat here. There's been, talk by the head of MI6. There's been talk by the Minister for the Ministry of Defence, Gavin Williams, about his grave concerns about 5G. So it's not as if the establishment aren't talking about it. They just need a little bit of a poke to help them on their way.
Correct. It sounds like there are some people, if the head of MI6 and, the military defense minister or whoever that was has spoken out against 5G, they're aware of the hazards. So you're right. People need to get behind that. People need to start speaking out as well. So on that note, we're going to have to close the show this morning. But Mark, I thank you so much for coming forward. I'm very concerned about your case. I'm very concerned that that there are attempts being made in your area to gag you when you are such a powerful voice, and we need you in this fight. So, please come back and keep me apprised as events unfold as to what's going on, and come back anytime and tell us what's going on. And also, I'm going to try to start a little program on my own, a little campaign over here to get people involved and get people started on doing something. So I've put out some materials online. So feel free to send me materials anytime.
Brilliant. It's fantastic. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone, for watching. Thank you so much again, Mark. And we'll see you again very soon. Have a great morning, everybody.